This is Heroine Addiction, where we cover romance and drama manhwa, and where all our plans are... Wait a minute. This all seems very familiar. We're doing this again! I'm Isekai Sensei-sama, a.k.a. Brad, and as always I'm joined by Bento Baggins, a.k.a. Ben.
The Villainess lived twice in a second episode.
We have been reincarnated to cover the rest of this series.
It feels that way.
Well, as always, be sure to find us on social media, which you can find the links for on our website, animepodcastreincarnation.com. Today, I am not going to be reading a summary because we did that last time on the first episode, part 1 of The Villainess Lives Again. We don't need to do that again.
No, you're definitely just going to have to go listen to that first episode if you want to know what we talked about, because we're just jumping in the middle because there's too much. There's too many schemes.
In fact, the first thing we're going to do is go and listen to the end of it to figure out where we stopped.
That's what I was thinking. I know we kind of stopped around the time where, like, Lawrence winds up taking the blame for the fall of House Heroine, and Roigar is also implicated. We didn't really talk about Roigar being set up for trying to, like, steal from the king.
Right.
So we wanted to talk about, like, this is where I tapped out in the last episode, because I remember I was thinking, like, okay, now we got to set up the whole thing with Roigar leading up to, like, one of the most dramatic moments of the series. Then there's still, like, all of season 4. So I think we could go back to that. So the last time, I think we ended around the time Tia's, like, seasons long scheme started to come together, where she planted an assassin to murder the queen of Amal, and she framed House Heroine for that, but she made it look like Lawrence was the one who framed House Heroine for that. And after Lawrence lost the king's favor, the king's half-brother Roigar was sent down to resolve the conflict, because they need these salt processing facilities open. And so he goes down and he's going to try to make some kind of arrangement with the king of Amal and get the salt stuff going, which is the most profitable thing in the empire. And this is the reason Roigar would even take this opportunity is because this is going to put him perhaps over Lawrence in running to become the crown prince, if that all makes sense.
So I want to make sure. Okay, so we covered the downfall of Moralia, and Tia's confinement at the church, finding out that she's pregnant, and then the harvest festival at which they are presenting the hybridized wheat, hybridized with the wheat or whatever plant from the Karam, where they were going to get it blessed so they could sort of backdoor it in and get it used to deal with a drought or
so
epidemic or something that's going to be happening that she knows about.
Well, if I remember correctly, there's going to be like a forced famine, because right now the North, because their growing season is so short, but they also need to field so many soldiers every winter. They have a serious supply issue, and they're reliant on food supplies from the capital. And the Emperor intentionally tries to keep Cedric weak so that his kingdom can't revolt. And if they have this hardy crop, they could have an independent food supply, and it would secure the North. Because I don't know if it was the Emperor or if it was Lawrence in the past who restricted food supplies, but it's an easy way to control the North.
I thought there was a natural occurrence.
There's isn't there like an eruption or something? Yeah, there is something that happens that disrupts food supplies.
Or wasn't it too much rain? Isn't that the whole point? And then the stuff with the riverbank at the end, because there's too much rain, and so there's like flooding, and it takes out the fields in certain areas, so they have less.
Tia is also manipulating the grain market. That's just a thing that's in the background.
Yeah,
I don't even remember why she's doing that. She's manipulating the grain market. She's hoarding. She stockpiles grain whenever the price is low. I mean, it's a smart thing to do, but that's got to be a bigger deal in the book, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I don't remember how that connects in with any political schemes. That might just be purely taking care of business.
Which you need. I think. Yeah. I think you need that because you need like red herrings and stuff. You need to. It's part of the mystery. You got to figure out what the hell she's doing.
Well, and as has been established on Words About Books, you just want a woman to do some capitalism. So.
I was. So we covered Beware of Chicken, and Nate said that about like, does anybody ever get isekai and do capitalism? And I was like, oh my god. Hardly ever anything else, actually.
I was trying when I listened to that, I was trying to think of a specific series that was just like real heavy with the capitalism, and there's a couple. So I'm wondering, and I'm probably going to regret saying this out loud, I'm wondering if we should have Nate on one of these episodes one day.
Oh boy. I don't know if we could try. It'd be an interesting episode. He's gonna have so many questions.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. I have all kinds of questions too. So okay. So we've established Tia was at the Harvest Festival. They're blessing the wheat, but then Tia collapses, and there's this blinding light, and she's going into labor. And everybody's like, oh, crap. God blessed the baby. Like, everybody saw it. It was up in front of her. She was literally in front of most of the Capitol. And everybody saw this light. They know she's pregnant. She's visibly pregnant. She has the baby. And I believe you said this last time. They gave her a C-section, right?
Yeah, because something went wrong with the birth. She was bleeding a lot.
I mean, she's small and frail, so
yeah, we haven't really talked about it a ton. It comes up in her confinement, but she is sickly.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, maybe that's something that's made more a deal of in the book, but she's kind of just sickly when she remembers to be sickly in the comic.
Well, she doesn't really do much of any kind of action, anything. So I think it still works.
Maybe this is just my personality, but like, if I had to have like 12 meetings a day and I'm just constantly talking and plotting and scheming and blah, 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 I'd be exhausted.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I know it looks like they're just having tea and stuff, but like I'm just doing a podcast, and at the end of these, I'm like, oh man, need a nap. I'm older than Tia though.
I think most of Tia's meetings aren't 3 hours long though, so.
Oh Christ, I'm more than double Tia's age.
Yeah, you are.
Oh no.
In case no one's heard this before, 36 is the age at which you turn old because you have been an adult longer than you were a child.
Yeah, it felt that way. It did feel that way. And 37 is creeping up, and I'm like, man, should I like not have a bunch of comic books and action figures anymore? Like I thought I'd be like,
Nah,
I thought it just naturally vanished at a certain point, but it's not happening.
no, that's because our parents and grandparents were beaten down by expectations from society.
I think it's because they had homes and took vacations.
I have a home. I take vacations.
I
don't go anywhere when I take vacations.
I have an apartment, and I've taken like a vacation.
I am a normal adult male with a career in almost every single way, and I am obsessed with romance manhwa, so that makes it okay for everybody.
It's true.
I'm turning 38 in 3 months.
Yeah, you're not old until you're 40.
Nah, I already told everybody I'm old when I turn 36.
I will not declare myself middle-aged until double my age is when I realistically want to die. I think right now, 72? I could go a little further than that.
My grandfather turned 90 in October.
My grandma's 95. She's still going.
My grandfather who just turned 90, his mother died when she was 93.
Oh, you got the genes.
So, yeah, I might be here for a while. You look forward to 50 more years of heroin addiction.
That's when the podcast... No, dude, that's when the podcast takes off. People get such a kick out of like, oh, it's two guys talking about this stuff. But when it's like two elderly men talking about this stuff, then they're going to be like, what a novelty.
Well, by that time, it'll be nostalgia, too.
Yeah, people are going to be looking back at this like it's the Poe clan. Oh, you remember that old webtoon style? Back before everything was like, I don't know, fucking... What is AIR?
Do you remember back when we had to read things on a screen instead of having it streamed straight into our cerebral cortex?
That's when I'm going to be an old man. And like, I'm going to be the old man who like lives in a cabin in the woods. Cause like you're not brain chipping me, Elon.
I read my manhwa on a phone like we did in the olden days.
Goddamn right. I don't trust these brain chips.
Anyway, where were we? So Tia has a baby. She heals instantly from the C-section. Well, it wasn't instantly. If she healed instantly, they wouldn't have been able to get the baby out. But she heals very quickly. Have a little baby girl, Letitia.
Yep. And that messes me up.
Does actually look like a baby, so points there. A little strange looking, but you know, with the art style of this, it's not entirely out of place. So, give him credit for not drawing a tiny adult. A lot of them do that.
Yeah. No, it's a very cute baby. They go out of their way to do the big head, big eyes.
And yeah, basically right away, this child is declared the rightful heir to the throne of the empire because She's got the bloodline. She was blessed by God.
Yeah,
All the fun stuff.
They misattribute the holy power to the baby, when I believe it was actually Tia's holy power.
Yeah. But that works out for everybody involved. Okay. So I think that was basically that whole plot line. Moralia is sent off to a convent somewhere, exiled basically, to be imprisoned for the rest of her days, which is actually much more severe punishment than you'd think, given that she's always been like the center of attention. She's the beautiful one who had the emperor's favor. And so being locked up in a place with only like 3 nuns and a priest to ever talk to is like, that's cruel and unusual punishment for her.
Yeah, I could kind of see it, though. I mean, we'll have to see, because the last chapter just finally dealt with some of the consequences of that.
I'm actually surprised that they revisited it, because in a lot of these series, the whoever Villainess gets sent off to a convent somewhere, and then that's it. You never hear from him ever again. So the fact that they were like, we're going to wrap something up here, I thought that was it was a good way to sort of deal with some of Tia's deep-seated traumas.
Well, and like her mom, and I think Tia even admits this a little bit. Like, Tia can't bring herself to hate her mom. Her mom, there's something wrong with her. I mean,
oh yeah,
she definitely has some kind of legitimate mental health problem. And
you established that plenty last episode.
Yeah, and she's like, maybe a quiet place where she can sort of like focus on that away from the schemes and the manipulations and stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe it could do her some good.
I'm pretty sure she still needs medicated.
Yeah, that's not going to happen though, because it's olden times. We're not going to have lithium for a little bit, so
I'm sure you could find something.
Milk of the poppy.
Huh?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, let's bring it back now, because that sort of wraps up a bunch of sort of storylines that really only come back in tangential ways. Obviously, Letitia is still around, and there's a lot of inner turmoil that Tia has, as far as like she doesn't deserve to be a mother, and she doesn't think that she can give this baby the correct love that it needs, but that's fine because the baby's surrounded by all these servants who love her, and Cedric is there and he'll take care of her, so it's cool if Tia dies. She doesn't care. Letitia'll be fine.
Yeah, and ordinarily that could be a little melodramatic, but I think the way they portray it on the page, it feels believable. Like, I have anxiety problems. My wife also deals with some mental health stuff, and I've known a lot of people just from dealing with mental health that have mental health issues. And I've heard people talk about having kids in this exact way, and I've heard them concerned about these exact things, especially when you've got that generational trauma where you're like, I can't raise a kid because look at me. I mean, like, I'm just not the kind of this, like, the kid deserves better than this. The kid deserves somebody who doesn't just like order people to be killed because it's convenient. Like,
and guess what? They probably do deserve better. But you know what? You're not going to get it. So you just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Of course, the alternative is don't have kids at all. That's
well, that was Tia's plan, but you know, she didn't plan very well.
But once the kid's there, doesn't matter. You just do your best.
Yeah. Yeah, and so there's a couple of scenes where she's trying to like beg different people to take care of the kid. And again, this is a plot point that's still yet to be fully resolved. It looks like they're going to spend some more time on Tia's relationship with her daughter.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to that because that is an interesting part of her character development. That really is Tia's arc, is learning to fully accept that she is not the worst parts of her nature.
Yeah. Which I think, looking at the series as a whole, a lot of things start coming together in terms of the themes of mother-daughter relationships. I know when they first were like, oh, Tia's pregnant, that's what's going on. I was like, oh my God, they're doing this already? Like, I know we're still pretty far from the end. Like, it's weird that they're doing a baby already, but like, it makes sense in hindsight because what's happening is this theme, because Tia had this contentious relationship with her mother, and you're witnessing her growth through the things that she's experiencing, the love of the people around her, and then her eventual, hopefully, we're not quite there yet, but eventual acceptance of her role as a mother and letting go, or at least not externalizing that trauma that she dealt with when she was a child.
Yeah, this is something kind of for rubric time, but I was thinking the whole time I was reading it, with a lot of these, and I think I've mentioned on other episodes, I get the impression that the author is young, and as we discussed, I am old. In this one, I don't know if the author is young or not, but there's a mature.
When it started.
Yeah, yeah. There's a maturity to this, though. I mean, these are some themes that like I wouldn't expect like an 18-year-old author to tackle.
Yeah.
So I do wonder about the author, but I'm not. If you know, let me know if you know anything about the author's bio, but I'm not going to try to look up Mint on Google. That's just going to be a nightmare.
I have to imagine they're not like super young. If anything, probably mid-20s, mid to late 20s.
At least old enough to have thought about realistically having a child.
Yeah.
Which, of course.
Although I say that, but then every once in a while you get an author that just comes out of nowhere when they're young and just nails it right away.
Yeah.
If I don't know how much people who listen to this are keeping up with, shonen manga, but the author of Kagurabachi, which is doing very well, and I can tell you is really good, is I think 20 or 21.
Oh, wow.
And they started when they were like 17. And yeah, they've got a hit manga, and I think this is like their second one, or no. They did like 4 or 5 one-shots first, and then this is their first actual series. And yeah, they're doing really good, and you go, wow, very young. I think this is what they call a genius.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good, but does he have a podcast?
Probably.
Damn it.
Okay, so story-wise. So Derry Ford murdered the queen.
Yeah.
And I believe she killed herself, right?
Yes.
Did she drink the same poison tea? Was that it?
I think so, yeah. And
a good way to frame.
Yeah, she did that so she, couldn't be questioned, and so it would look like she was under duress.
Do you? I forget what the exact circumstances were, but she was really pissed at that house that she was like, "I'll take them down with my life."
Yeah, I think that house did some shit to get control of the South.
Yeah,
and she got mixed up. So the Empress's friends were previously in control of the South, and I think Derry had some relation to that family. So both the Empress and Derry Ford really had it out for the Heroine faction.
That's one of those details that's like, it's really important, but you lose it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
This it's difficult because there's no way that I want to read this again, but this is a series that would really, really benefit from a second reading.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. Because there's another thing with we haven't talked a lot about Derry just because if you talk about every minor character, we're gonna be a 5-parter. Like you could do a whole podcast on this series if you really wanted to.
3 characters per episode.
Yeah. But Derry, they do an interesting thing where they make Tia more of a villainess with her too. This is like a sleeper cell situation. Derry Ford has been on this case for years before she finally commits the murder. Tia has set her up. She's got a house. She's got a life. She's got friends. And all of it's fake. All of it is just for the mission. But Tia wonders, like, will she have the guts to go through with it? Will she stick to her revenge plan now that she has tasted how good life can be?
Oh boy, did she stick to it.
Yeah. And even Derry.
There's a scene of it happening. And yeah, she's hardcore.
Tia was prepared to extract Derry Ford from the situation if she had lived. I think that is a detail that is mentioned. But I think Tia is also maybe a little proud of her for going all the way and decides she's going to like honor whatever promises she made at any cost out of loyalty to the dead woman. That's another little facet of Tia's character that I didn't maybe necessarily expect, but it kind of fits, is she has that weird, like, I don't know why she feels a sense of like duty to the people she's thrown away now. Maybe that's character development.
I think it is. And I think that's, the fact that she continues to have these inner monologues about, I did so many bad things and got so many innocent people killed in my previous life. And like, even now I'm getting all these people killed. Although there's not very many innocent people that get killed this time. But she still has so much guilt over that, even though all those innocent people are alive right now because she didn't do the previous timeline stuff. But yeah, that guilt eats away at her so much that she does go out of her way quite often to do good things for people.
Yeah. So she's also got a plant in the, oh god, I'm forgetting their name. The green hair faction, the teal faction.
Teal, yeah, it's very. You need to be specific.
One has green and one has teal.
The green one is mixed.
That's true. Okay, yeah. The teal-haired faction,
The Camillas.
The Camellias and the Rudin faction.
Yeah,
which is Roygar's base.
Oh, right. Roygar's hair is blonde.
Yes.
And if you mix that with teal, it would be green.
Oh, dude. I don't know what's going on with their hair.
That's not how hair colors work, but
yeah,
okay.
I don't know why everyone in that house looks like Ray Ayanami, but okay.
Well, the good thing there is they're the only ones with teal hair. So it's very easy to pick them out.
The mom and the daughter look exactly alike, except for the mom
that
has
was
red
confusing.
Eyes.
But they're important characters because you have so Roygar's wife, a daughter of, was he Marquis Camellia?
Marquess? I don't know.
Marquess is a woman who's in that position.
I don't know, man.
Marquis, I think he's a Marquis, or I think he was more than a count.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
So Marquis Camellia is like one of the most important, like he's got the power of a duke, even though he's a marquis. And that's important because he has tons and tons of political power. And Roygar is partly using his connection to him through his wife to establish more power. But he also really, really loves his wife, which makes this whole sequence of events more painful.
His wife is kind of painted as a dummy.
Oh, she's like, she's way too innocent to be within these power struggles.
Her half sister is a schemer that fulfills a same kind of that fulfills a Tia role. She's not quite as competent as Tia, but she's pretty good.
Wait,
and
who was she married to?
I don't know who she's married to.
She's around all the time, but I forget.
Because she has a daughter. I know her daughter's Skyla, but I don't know who the daughter's by.
Yeah, I forget. But yeah, she's basically like the anti-Tia.
Yeah. And so she's puzzling all this stuff out. And then Tia recruits her daughter, Skyla, to Tia's side. Tia convinces Skyla that right now House Camellia is under the thumb of House Rudin. And if what Tia promises is basically the restoration of House Camellia, like this is their way out. Skyla thinks they should align with Tia. Her mother is afraid of the consequences. And that's sort of her fatal flaw, is that she lacks the ambition or the courage to break free.
I would also say she lacks the foresight to see how they're not going to win against Tia.
Yeah. And
there's a really interesting sort of subplot that goes on with the whole Camellia thing that actually gets set up way earlier. There's a like a vassal house of the Camellias that they destroyed for some reason, and like all of the branch families of this house get like cut off and everything, and like a bunch of people got executed. But Tia goes and finds like this one living relative who's just living somewhere as a commoner, right? I forget his name.
Ian.
What was the house's name?
Camellia. He's Ian Camellia. He had a different name I think he was living under, but
I thought there was...
I think he's like a second cousin or something to Skyla.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's...
Because I think what happened is House Rudin took control of the assets that would have belonged to this guy.
There's too many characters.
Yeah, this is another scheme I wasn't even going to mention, but she plucks. So House Rudin took control of all these holdings that would have belonged to this guy, and this guy basically is gone.
It's really important though, because Skyla is able to have an out. Tia is able to give Skyla an out because she's going to marry this guy.
Yeah,
and they will then have the title.
Yes,
that this house should have.
Reunite all of Camellia's holdings under one family, and he's going to sue for his inheritance, basically.
Right.
And he's unlikely to win, but it will tie up Rudin in court for a long time. And I'm not an expert on the period of history that this stuff is based around, but I have read a couple of books where like that shit happened all the time. Like I remember reading a thing set right after the War of the Roses or right before the War of the Roses, where like one guy's job for his family was he became a lawyer and he just spent years in London suing for stuff.
Yeah.
Just all day, every day.
But yeah, there's this whole plot line that's going on where this guy is he's basically just put in place to be a thorn in their side by Tia, but it also gives Skyla a way out and a way to basically a lifeline for everybody involved that they can go, listen, it's the Rudens. That's the dad, Marquis Ruden, not Marquis Camellia. But basically Tia is saying, listen to Skyla. She's going to be okay. If you guys just stop doing this, you can just go with her. It'll be fine. You know, the House Ruden is going down. Don't hang on to them.
The deal is really there's a carrot and a stick. Like, you stay with House Ruden, you're going to die.
Yeah.
You side with me, you get out from under their thumb, you get your holdings back, and everything's going to be great. But Skyla's mom thinks she can... They think they can still put Roygar on the throne. And if they do that, then they'd be in a better position than they would be with Tia, I guess.
You know what's crazy about that is even after they take care of Marquis Ruden, which did not die in a very pleasant way, the mom is still like all in with Roygar. She does not figure it out.
Well, there's a couple of things there. Like, she has some real trauma around how she was raised and how she needs to be useful to this family and her sister. And
she is, I will say, she is a tragic character, because we do get to see just how overbearing and awful her dad is. And she legitimately loves her sister and daughter.
Yeah, no, I like I said, I think it's her. That's like a recurring theme in this story, is the stuff that makes people human and makes them redeemable is ultimately what Tia exploits to their downfall.
Yeah.
And that's what makes Tia feel like a villainess, like a true villainess, is this lady is blinded by the fear she has of her father that has been instilled in her over the course of her entire life. And it's irrational. She's a super rational person who just has this one blind spot.
Yeah.
And Tia's gonna attack from that side. And it's the same thing with the Emperor, who just wants to be liked and wants his children to love him and wants to have a happy family. And it's the same thing with Roygar, who loves his wife. And
yeah, I mean, there's really not that many characters in here that are just like unrepentantly awful that you just cannot stand at all. Marquis Ruden is one of them. But honestly, he's not in it enough. He's not upfront enough for me to pick him out as being like, I hate him. I mean, I do, but like not the same way I hate Aubrey.
Lawrence is really the only one I can think of. And I think that's partly why I didn't really care much. Well, I shouldn't say I didn't care much. I didn't care much relative to the other plot points for the Lawrence stuff. I just wasn't as interested in his downfall, because it's like, yeah, he's King Joffrey in Game of Thrones. He's just a gross, weird monster person who must be put down.
Yes and no, because they do leave open the opportunity of he could do better this time, because that's the whole Lycia plot line with him, is that, and to be fair, I kept reading things about like, oh, Lycia, she remembers her previous life and she actually does love Lawrence and she's going to try and fix him and everything. And I'm just like, really?
Yeah, she
Why?
fixed him all right.
so they do leave that possibility there of like he could turn this around. There's still a chance for him to turn it around.
Whatever's going on with Lycia and Lawrence is deeply unhealthy.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was, but I don't know why she thought the way she did about him. Maybe they had some good times, but I didn't see him.
Yeah, there hasn't been a point yet where they explain that to a degree that I was like, oh, okay, now it makes sense that Lycia actually loves him.
Yeah, I didn't get that one. But so let's talk about...
Is it just because Lycia is just the best person ever?
Maybe this is another thing that I don't quite relate to, like a theme in these kind of stories, but I don't actually think it makes you a super good person to be just like unconditionally nice to everybody all the time and to like give everything of yourself to try to better someone who doesn't show any signs of wanting that or deserving it. Like,
I guess that's why she's the saintess and we're not.
I just don't think that's like, I don't know. I guess you could say that's like Christ-like behavior, but like that's not really what he did.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Jesus Christ didn't pick one particular awful person and be like, I'm gonna save this person.
Yeah, I don't know. But I want to talk about Roygar.
Okay. Before we get really deep into that, because I think we glossed over this. So Lawrence was semi-exiled from the capital to the west.
Yes.
After all the stuff with Moralia. So he's not really exiled and he's not really being punished. It's sort of like a behind the scenes kind of thing where Gregor is like, hey, leave for a while. This looks really bad. You need to not be here. We'll deal with this later, which Lawrence is pissed about because he's going, if I'm not here, then Cedric and Roygar are going to be getting all kinds of attention and they're going to gain power. But he doesn't really have a choice. So he's off in the west and he gets sidelined out there for a huge portion of the story. So we won't catch back up with him until very close to the end.
Yeah. I think it's close to the end at any rate. Okay, so Lawrence gets kicked out, and Roygar gets sent down to take care of this. And at this point, I was still a little confused on the exact nature of the relationship between Roygar and his wife, who is Skyla's mother. No. Not Skyla's mother, Skyla's aunt.
Yeah.
So Roygar wants her to stay behind, and I think this whole time she's starting to have this crisis where she's like, you think I'm an idiot. You don't value me.
Oh, poor Garnet.
And he's like, no, I do. And I thought he was just trying to placate her because he looks like a fuckboy. He acts like a fuckboy. And he just kind of married her for what her family could do for him. But it turns out he did actually like her quite a bit. But he does think she's stupid.
Because she is.
Yeah, and so it's
but
like...
I should say, it's less that she's stupid and more that she's innocent.
She was content to be what noble women act like on the surface.
Right.
She wasn't using the salons to trade political intrigue and manipulate and stuff. She was actually just there for the tea and dresses.
And she would have done great in a different story.
Yeah. Yeah, she's just there to hang. And, yeah, respect. But she's decided she's going to try to be a little bit better. And it's especially around the time that her father dies, because she also suspects that stuff is happening around her that she doesn't approve of, and she doesn't have any control of it because she's just been too complacent. And she insists on going down south with Roygar.
Guess what? It's too late.
Yeah, you're in fucking deep now. She insists on going down there with Roygar, and Skyla is also going to go down there with Roygar. And you got to remember, Skyla is Tia's agent.
This is also important because Roygar and Garnet have 2 children, I believe.
Yes, at least.
Who are under 10, I want to say.
Yeah.
Which is important.
Yes.
Can you guess why?
Yeah, and Cedric has already kind of threatened his family.
He didn't directly threaten them.
No,
he just implied.
He gave him a dueling pistol and said, "Let's make a pact that if one of us dies, we take care of the other's family. Because I might fucking kill you." And so they go down, and while they're down there, and I might need you to help me with the specifics of this because I forget exactly what she was offered. But while they're down there, there's a couple of people from different kingdoms. So there's the kingdom of Amal, and then there's another kingdom involved in this salt trade. That second kingdom asks for like a clandestine meeting with Garnet. And Skyla sort of arranges that. And this is a setup. But I forget what exactly they're setting her up for.
Okay, well, I'm not going to be any help. You're the one who read this like a week and a half ago.
So basically, it's like they're offering her some kind of bribe to give a portion of the salt trade. Get in the comments if you can give more details about this. I don't know where that Poppy guy from the Pato comments is these days. But she winds up taking a bad deal. And Roygar, I think he's sort of trying to take a little bit off the top of the salt trade, which some amount of that is honestly to be expected. Yeah. I don't think anybody was under the illusion that like Heroine was doing everything, but they were doing some shady shit with the taxes and stuff. Like they were sending out a lot of salt and and claiming that they harvested more salt and then paying taxes out of their own pocket to make it look like they were more productive than they were. And I forget why exactly that was happening.
Well, so the thing with the salt trade is that Gregor didn't care about the noble family in charge making tons of profit off of it. What he cared about was that he wasn't getting the proper cut.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
And therefore the king, the empire wasn't getting the proper cut. So you can jack the price up, but don't lie on your tax form.
So they go down there and they're meeting with the king of Amal or Amel. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. And they're trying to smooth things over because his wife just got assassinated. You think he'd be a little more put out by that? But who should show up at this gathering but Prince Cadriel?
Cadriel, yeah.
And Cadriel dances with Skyla, and he's being all suave and red-haired. And he's like, I want to keep you here so that you're not, in the wrong spot. When my mercenary army arrives and he takes over the palace, he traps everybody, including the king. And he's like, he finds like these documents they're drawing up, planning to screw over the emperor and all this stuff. And he's like, I gotta, Dad, I think you're just too shady to be the king anymore. I think I'm going to have to be the king now, and I think I'm going to have to tell the emperor what you guys are up to here. So I'm sorry about that, but I'm just really committed to fair trade and the rule of law. So all these guys with swords are going to hold you here until I decide otherwise. And Roygar is going to get sent back, and Cadriel also sends letters explaining all the shenanigans that were going on and all the weird clandestine shit. And basically it comes out that Rhaegar basically thinks his hands are fairly clean in this. Like, he's like, look, I just went down there and I saw all this, and I wasn't involved in any of the bribing and whatnot, but his wife was. Mm-hmm. She took something, a gift, I think it was said, and she kept it. She didn't throw it away or anything. She still had it, and so. And
to be fair, she didn't realize what she was doing.
And that's
because she's not very smart.
Well, that's part of the thing. She was finally trying to take an active role in this stuff, and she just fucked up big time. She just walked right into it. And Skylo,
what was it like? She was going like, I'm gonna have relationships with other houses and other nations
they
and
wanted
stuff, and that's good for us.
Yeah, they wanted to try to like connect to Rhaegar through her, and she's like, yeah, I can facilitate this, and I can be a deal maker, and Skylo walks her right into it.
Yeah.
And that's a point of contention for Skyla and her family, where she chooses Tia over her family, and that's when
she chooses winning and staying alive.
That's when she has to do this marriage deal to like break out of this trap.
That he's a good guy though. They'll be all right together.
Yeah, maybe. So they come back, and the bribe comes out that Rhaegar's faction accepted this bribe, and now they're going to go down. And the only way to salvage this is for Garnet to take the blame, to say she acted without her husband's knowledge and that she had no idea what she was doing, and it's entirely her, and she has to say that she did it. She can't say, I was trying to be more involved in politics. She has to say, I did it because I'm a stupid girl who likes stupid, pretty things, and I was just so blown away by the gift that I had to take it. So she has to go up and say the exact thing she was trying to not be. She has to claim to be in order to save her family. And Rhaegar does not ask her to do this, does not know she's doing this. She concludes of her own accord she has to do this. She also accuses her half-sister of having their father murdered. And she figured that out. And so now, unfortunately, and this is like the Greek tragedy of it all, she got the thing she wanted. She's finally like in the politics. She knows what's going on. She's moving and shaking, and she's going to make a big power play, and she's going to get herself killed for it. Because the Emperor is furious. And she's going to go meet the Emperor, and even Cedric is like waiting outside. And Cedric tells her, don't go in there. Don't do what you're going to do. And at first she thinks he's scheming against her. And then she slowly realizes as they talk, he's like, he just doesn't want her to die. He's like, think about your kids. Think about, like, don't go in there. If you go in there, you're not coming out. And so they have a nice moment where she's like, that's what I got to do, Cedric. She finally realizes he's actually trying to talk to her as a human being. And they have a little human moment, and she goes in, she says it's all her fault, confesses to everything. And Rhaegar finds out she did that. She's going to be executed and all this stuff. And again, something that was set up a season ago, and I didn't think a ton about. I kind of had forgotten about. I knew it was going to be a big deal when they did it, but I'd kind of forgotten about it. I didn't think it was going to go this way. Rhaegar takes the dueling pistol
Well, okay, so no, this is important. They lock Roygar up
Yeah.
in his room. They're like, you're under house arrest. We have these Imperial guards. They're standing outside the room and waiting. We're locking you in this room that has no weapons in it. But what they didn't do was remove these decorative dueling pistols.
Yes. And he had a bullet hidden somewhere. And
Yeah,
I'm still not sure what that was
What was
about.
it, like in a candlestick or something?
Yeah. I'm still not sure what that was about. Why did he hide it there, or did someone...
I forget.
Because what would be fucked up, dude, and I was thinking this, is what if Tia hid it there and told him? Like left a note or something that like, there's a way out, you son of a bitch. And if Tia did that, ooh. Oh, that would be cold. So he takes the dueling pistol. And, there are probably other ways he could have killed himself. But this is symbolic. This is, he leaves a note saying it was all him. His wife didn't do it. He did it. She's totally innocent. And he shoots himself.
Right, because, and this is, we built up to this. She goes to confess in front of the emperor. He's going to condemn her. She's not going to get executed on the spot.
Yeah.
So Roygar's locked up, and he's like, they're going to execute her. And so what am I going to do? Because, and this is the tragedy here. I don't like Roygar, but he is a tragic character. He did bad things, but I don't know that he did enough bad to have his life destroyed so thoroughly.
And the tragic thing is, and this is classic tragedy writing, is the one good thing he ever did, which was love his wife and children, is the thing that undoes him.
Yeah. So yeah, the whole point here is that he leaves the note. Yeah. He says he confesses to everything, stuff that he didn't do, mind you. And yeah, dueling pistol to the, what was it? Inside his mouth, I think it was.
Yeah, I think he stuck it in his mouth.
In the study with the dueling pistol.
And Cedric Cedric doesn't find him, but Cedric's informed and he goes to see the body.
Yeah, he's one of the first, because there were guards outside the room that heard the shot. They went in, they found him, and they immediately reported it. Cedric comes over. Because at this point, Cedric and the Emperor have been, I don't want to say getting close, because that implies a relationship there, but like in terms of politics, they've been getting close.
The Emperor's plan at the moment, he's got two ideas. One is to put Lawrence on the throne. The backup plan, I think, is to put Letitia on the throne. Skip Cedric. Because she's blessed by God, so it would make sense to put her parents on the throne. But what if he could just skip Cedric, this guy who has it out for him? And that's what he would like to do. So he's playing nice with Cedric for now. But Cedric finds this scene. He finds the note. But then the choice of weapon, it's tough because on one hand, I could see it's just the only weapon available to him. It's the most painless way to go. On the other hand, I like to imagine he purposely chose the dueling pistol to remind Cedric of that promise.
Yeah.
Which is certainly the effect it has on Cedric. But it's unclear from the story if Cedric puts that on himself or if Roygar intended to send that message.
I think, honestly, I think it was both.
I really like to think that Roygar was saying like he saw that Cedric would have the humanity to fulfill that promise that was half promise, half threat.
Yeah.
And Tia is even like, politically, the best thing to do would just be let her get executed. And Cedric's like, no, we're saving her this time. And Tia's like, okay. I mean,
well, and there's the key point here, which is why I said this earlier. But they're children. The two children, they're very young, and if left alive, because, and this is something that happens in a lot of like these medieval sort of monastic settings, is that when one person that's important in a house commits treasonous acts, the entire family gets executed.
well, they do mention, at least in this one, like it is canon to this empire that they have a guilt by association law for treason. If you commit treason, the punishment is you and your family are expunged.
Which was also why the fact that Cedric is alive after his parents were killed for treason is something that everybody is like, that was really weird. What's going on here?
Yeah.
So Garnet, and again, tragic characters, she finds out what happened. She's distraught. And Cedric goes in front of the Emperor and is like, listen, Roygar gave his life for this problem. You need to just exile Garnet and her kids. And of course, Gregor's like, but I really want to kill him. Can I just kill him? I think I want to kill him.
Yeah. And I'm trying to, I can't remember exactly. Does the Emperor agree? I don't think he agrees to spare them. Or does he?
Oh, yeah. I don't remember the end of that conversation, because they leave. So
I think he might agree to spare the kids, but they have to break Garnet out.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, he agrees that the kids can go. They have to like leave, go somewhere to exile. But then like, Garnet and her sister, her half sister, Skyla, like figures out a way to spirit them away.
Skyla begs Tia to spare her mother's life.
Yeah.
And she does. Tia comes up with a plan. I'm going to tell you, like, I don't remember all the details. If this is interesting to you, you should probably read it. If you haven't read it, God, I don't know how you're keeping up with this.
Anybody who's still listening to this that isn't reading it or has read it, what are you doing?
Yeah. So I'm sorry if I forget the details, because I was just like, I had such a jaw drop moment with Roygar killing himself, like with the dueling pistol. That was Game of Thrones worthy. I mean, we stopped being a webtoon at a certain point, and like now it's just high drama.
You say that. This would actually probably turn into a TV show pretty well.
Yeah, no, I think it would. This is one of the few where it's like, if I don't think I'd go so far as trying to read a machine translated version of the web novel or anything, but if they sold this on a shelf, I'd pick it up.
Not a Korean drama. I don't think it would work well in that setting. You need HBO to take this.
There's got to be some mediocre streaming network that could negotiate the rights. Like, what's Apple TV doing these days?
Yeah,
can they get like a manhwa drama hour? But yeah, so
or the BBC.
I think the BBC can do the real stuff. Like, they can do the Jane Austen stuff. No, you need like a Peacock for this. This is, I mean, God, who screwed up the Foundation? Isaac Asimov's
I think that was
Foundation.
Apple.
Yeah, let them do this. They need a win. This is an easy win.
Did you watch that?
I watched an episode of it, and I was like, nope. You missed. But
I think that series is probably good if you haven't read the books.
I was going to say, in fairness, I am usually that book guy. I am usually the book was better guy.
It looks really cool.
Yeah. It's not. I don't know.
And the guy who plays the Emperor is really good.
Well, maybe he could play the Emperor in this.
No, I don't think he fits that role. Who would I want to play Gregor? Probably Gary Oldman.
It's tough because Gregor, I mean, I'm basing it off the comic. I'd have to read the web novel to see like if I imagine him differently. He doesn't look that old in the comic.
No. But then no one does, so.
Can you imagine Gary Oldman being cast in The Villainess Lives Again?
That'd be awesome.
I mean, he might do it. He was in The Fifth Element, so.
Oh, what's her name? Who's the who played the sister in Black Widow?
Oh, Florence Pugh. Yeah.
Would be really good as Tia.
Yeah, I could see it. She's not waif-like enough.
I think she could do it. Who would you get for Cedric?
I don't know if there is like I can't think of a young, like built guy because like Timothy Chalamet is kind of a.
No, he's too.
Yeah, he's too pretty.
He can play. He could play Lawrence.
Yeah, I could see that. What's the other guy? Austin Butler. You get Elvis and Dylan reunited.
Yeah, he could do that. Yeah. I had a name for Licia, but I lost it.
Again, I'm old. I don't know. I don't know young actors anymore. Anya Taylor-Joy, she's in everything now.
Yeah, that works. Oh no, she's got weird eyes.
Yeah,
I don't think she can play some other character.
I can't I just go back to all of these people were in Dune. That's why I know who they are. So.
If this was made 30 years ago, I would get oh crap. What's her name? Something About Mary.
Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, Cameron Diaz to play Licia, a young Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, I could see that. There's I don't know, the Game of Thrones people. It's I mean they're probably too old now, but like a lot of those Game of Thrones people would be good. Maybe it's just because I've seen them like in period costume that it's easier to imagine. Anyway,
well, when they get around to making that, they should definitely bring us on as consultants.
Yeah. I don't know anything about the time or the setting or the fashion, but look, I know what the people want. I've read the Bato comments, and that's what you're going to need to really pull this off. No, you know who they should get is that dude who was in the comments who was like with the charts.
Well, they'll do consulting for the story. We're doing consulting for the casting, for the setting, sets and art direction, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay.
Yeah, that guy will be consulting on the story. He'll be the one who says, no, you have to have this person walk 10 paces this way and turn around and be holding this item, because that is really important to what happens 4 seasons from now when this person does that and they pick up that thing and then it connects. That's what they do.
You know who I would have play Cadriel? I was thinking about Nosferatu. Oh God, who's that kid? Kick-Ass. Aaron something?
Yeah. I don't know his name.
Johnson? Is that his name? He'd be a good Cadriel. He's got swagger. And he looks decent with long hair.
Oh, Jim Carrey can play Marquis Rudin.
And just keep his like Dr. Robotnik costume.
Yeah, he looks good in a fat suit.
Yeah. Okay, I'm in.
That'll be this is gonna be expensive to make. Holy.
Apple's got money. I bought an iPad recently, and Apple's got money. So they've got my money. So
Specifically your money.
yeah, no, I bought an iPad Pro because my wife wanted to use the pencil to do the things. And it's probably a nice gaming PC for the price of an iPad Pro.
Yeah, well, especially if you add on the pencil. I got my son one of those for Christmas or his birthday. Not this last year, but the year before. He never uses that pencil. I'm just like, why did I get that?
So
He just makes music with it. He doesn't draw anything.
I do a bit of digital painting and stuff, and I use a Wacom tablet, and I've been using that for years. I think I use a Cintiq if anybody cares. But my wife, she tried using it, and she doesn't like the like having to like actually sit down and like set it up, and it's like because it takes an HDMI port, you got to unplug one of your monitors or something. It's too much to actually like draw. So she wanted something she could just take out and like draw on, and she was using it. It's nice. It's working well, but goddamn, paying a lot for that Apple logo.
Yeah.
But I looked around, and it seems like they're the best tablet art thing. So
Yeah. Now, I didn't get my son an iPad Pro. I just got whatever the top of the line was below the Pro. Because the Pros are like, I was like, that's too expensive. I can't justify that.
I got it for her, but I was like, man, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe she'll make excellent art, and I'll be able to quit my job.
You have to figure out a way to pay this back.
Yeah. Yeah, I should tell her that. But
Anyway,
Anyway.
we got very sidetracked there.
yeah, that's the bonus content.
Hey, come on the Discord and tell us what your
Tell us what you
Dreamcasting
use
is
to
for
do digital art.
Oh, I guess you could do that too. Okay, so yeah, Garnet and her kids, and what was her name? Marquess Camellia, the sister, the
I don't
half
remember
sister.
the sister's name.
I'm looking at this wiki, and it does not have a name.
The
It
next
literally just calls
series,
her Marchioness.
the next series we do,
You're gonna write the wiki.
I'm making the fucking wiki because for as obsessed as people are about these things, they are really bad at going back and doing the documentation. And I worry that this is like the podcast of record for these things, and that's terrible because I don't remember anybody's name.
I know she's got a name.
Yes, she does.
Why is it not on here anywhere?
Next time I do one of these, I'm sitting at my computer and I'm just clipping a face and I'm writing a name next to it, and that alone will improve the wiki enormously.
Well, then you just start taking notes every time they pop up or are mentioned. You just make a note.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it. This is a good use of AI.
When will AI start reading manhwa
Yep.
and creating wikis on its own?
That's what I was gonna say. I want to be like I hate AI in almost
It's a
every
good use
shape
of
and
it.
form. But yeah, if ChatGPT could tell me the name of this character. The sad thing is, though, if you ask ChatGPT, it'll tell you a name.
It might not be the right one.
Yeah, it's not gonna have anything to do with the comic, but
You have to be very specific with your prompts. Tell me the name of this character, and if you can't find it, do not make one up. So after all the back and forth and drama that Skyla has with her mom, in the end, Skyla comes out on top, and her mom is like, "You were right. I should have listened to you." But to be fair, she was prepared to die from all this, and she got to leave. She got to stay alive.
Yep. She said there's no greater honor than being defeated by my own daughter.
Which I gotta say, after all of the stuff that was happening and people being executed and dying in this series of events with the kingdom of Amal and the salt trade and all that, I was like, "There's no way she's gonna live." And they turned it around. They sort of made a point to be like, Tia stepped back from this as soon as the stuff with Roigar went down, because she was like, I did what I needed to do. What happens at this point doesn't make a difference to me.
Well, and two, Cedric asked for her to find a way to make this work, and so she did.
And they make it a point of really showing that, because in her previous life, Tia would have been like, "We're taking all of them out. We can't leave survivors. Survivors try and get revenge, and we can't have that.
Whole families, no orphans."
Yeah.
But
which is ironic considering what happens right near the end.
Yeah. There is one scene. The only other thing I would want to mention with the whole Garnet situation is there's a scene at the end where Garnet, Cedric told her, like, "You got to leave this prison." She's like, "I don't want to live, blah, blah, blah. They're just going to kill my husband and my kids. I don't want to make it out if they don't make it out." And he's like, "Your kids are going to need you. We're getting the kids out."
Yeah.
And she's sitting in this house and she's like, "The kids aren't there." And Cedric isn't there. And she's like, "He just said that to get me to leave. He couldn't save the kids." And then the kids come in with their new maid, who is her sister, her half-sister, Skyla's mom, who she said she never wanted to see again because she murdered her father and she doesn't forgive her. And Garnet is like weeping with joy, hugging her kids, and she looks at her half-sister and she's like, I still can't forgive you for murdering her father. And she's like, "Yeah, I know, but right now I think you're going to need me a little bit more." And she acknowledges that, and she's like, "I still don't forgive you, but it's not going to prevent me. Like, I do want you in my life still."
Yeah.
And I like, again, that is like, that's a mature thing for Otome Isekai to kind of address. It's like, forgiveness is a tricky emotion when somebody has really, really wronged you.
But also, Garnet, do you know how awful your dad was?
Yeah.
He deserved to die in the fire that he died in.
But I think she does. I actually think she does. She still can't forgive her for doing it, but she understands why she did. And I think that's where I say, like, forgiveness is a tricky emotion. And
there's also the whole point that she was tricked into killing him. So
I'd have killed him.
I forget the specifics of that, but
of all the people Tia's manipulated into being dead, that's not one I worry too much about.
Well, let's be fair. In this timeline, most of them deserved it.
I don't know. It's tough because
it's unclear if the Queen of Amal deserved it.
I don't think the Queen of Amal knew what the hell was going on.
Yeah, I don't know that she did. We did. I don't think we barely saw her.
I could write you a college essay on why it is not morally correct for Tia to have killed basically anybody except Rudin, who is a piece of shit, and Lawrence, which Lawrence is
Tia didn't kill him.
No, Tia doesn't kill him. But no, like I like that though. I say that, but like the whole Aubrey situation, like I like
kill her either.
No, she didn't. No, she did not. But I don't know. I like that all of these people are complicated. Like I could say, like, I think Tia is a villainess. But like with, like, it's the thing Garnet said to her sister. It's like, you're a villainess, but I get why you do what you do. And I don't agree with it. And I'm not necessarily trying to give you a pass on it, but I can't hate you for it.
Yeah.
And that's a complicated set of emotions that I did not expect to be invoked by a webtoon. And maybe that is me underestimating the medium.
No, they definitely run the full spectrum.
Yeah. So it's time for Lawrence, I think.
Yeah. So the salt trade stuff gets wrapped up. Wait, who do they put in charge of that at the end? So the kingdom gets taken over by Cadriel. Like he's going to be king now. The previous king of Amal is sort of a pushover. Like he's really bad at all the politics stuff. And so when Cadriel takes over, it's sort of like, yeah, that's probably the best thing for your kingdom.
I don't know if they send Cedric south, but I know the Emperor.
Right after the queen was killed, I think he sent Cedric first to sort of intercept the military stuff that was going on. Or no, that was Lawrence. Lawrence didn't get exiled until after that because he screwed up the initial talks with with Amal. Because like they sent a military force to the border and then Lawrence took a military force to the border and they like clashed in a way that they shouldn't have. And then Gregor was like, Lawrence is screwing all this up and he's going to like lose us the salt trade. So Cedric, you go and deal with this. And I think Cedric sends someone else to like head it up. Some knight commander or something like that. You should really read this.
There's a lot that goes on. There's a couple of things that happen in quick succession that I don't remember all the details of. The Emperor forces Tia to go to the west. At some point, why is Tia forced to display her Saintess powers?
When was that?
There is a point where somebody is accused of something or something happens and Tia has to go in front of everybody and like she shoots out a bunch of green energy and she says, "It's me, I'm the problem, it's me."
Oh yeah, right.
And she says, that's when the Emperor's like, "You've been lying to me this whole fucking time. I figured out everything. It's all you. So you're the Saintess. There's a plague in the West. Go fix it."
Mm-hmm.
And he's basically sending her to die.
But he had already sent Lawrence away.
Yeah, well, Lawrence is the reason there's a plague in the West.
And I think before this happens, Tia sends Lycia to the West.
Yeah.
To deal with the plague.
Yeah, and Lycia was supposed to come back a couple of times, and she did not. And Tia thinks it's because, she got her memories back and she hates me. But it's more that she got her memories back and she's trying to deal with Lawrence.
She really should have known better.
Yeah, so Cedric is not supposed to leave the South. Or something. And then the other thing I'm trying to remember is what triggers the attack on Cedric's house.
Yeah. So, and I forget when these guys get introduced, but there's a point where we find this like shadowy meeting. There's a bunch of people sitting around a table.
Jesus,
they all have these claws over their face that have like a Roman numeral on them. And it's like they're this secret gathering, and it's like you don't know who any of them are, and they're like spies, and they're doing all kinds of shady machinations and everything, and you're wondering what's going on, and then you find out that no, basically all of them know who each other are, and it's not very secret, and also they're terrible at their job.
It's like, you know how Freemasons want you to think they control the world, but they're basically just a bunch of old guys who meet up and occasionally have like a chicken cookout or something?
Right.
Yeah, that's what this is.
I think it would, because I think, and I wanted to bring that up because I think it's related to something they had going on. The whole reason why there's like this revolt in the capital, that Cedric is sent to take care of, but it's like it's been set up by some of these guys, and they're gonna try and take Cedric out with it.
Yeah, like they planted explosives around. They're trying to make Cedric. He made some promise to take care of the people, and they're trying to frame Cedric and like.
And I think there's a lot of unrest right now because everybody knows that there's this plague going on, and they're like, it's gonna come to the capital, and we're all gonna die.
Yeah, and so Cedric's house winds up getting attacked. There's 2 random new characters introduced who are from another country, and one of them is a female knight, but nobody knows she used to be a knight, except Tia remembers from her previous life that she used to be a knight, and Tia cozies up to her and was like, hey, you don't know me, I don't know you, but I know you're a knight.
Is it the prince and princess?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, they're brother and sister, but the princess is...
She's a warrior.
Oh, no, she is acting as the princess when she's there, right.
Yeah.
It's the fact that she's a highly capable fighter
that is
hidden.
Yeah. And Tia's like, I need you to defend my baby. And the lady's like, okay.
Yeah, I forget exactly why she agrees to that so easily.
I don't know why.
She befriends her very easily.
I'm pretty sure that's not a me problem. I'm pretty sure that's a story problem of like...
I think it was explained, but I forget exactly what was going on. I mean, besides the fact that she's just like a good person.
Well, I think she's the prince. I don't remember if they're related or if they're together.
They're brother and sister. Yeah.
Okay. So he is a little bit weaker, but he's better at like the statecraft.
Right.
And he tells her, okay, look, something's going to go down. We're going to have to pick a side. If you think this is the side to pick, I'll back you up on that. But obviously if you start murdering people, then we've picked a side. So just, use caution, I guess, in determining whether or not to murder. And she doesn't, but I don't know, maybe she gets a good vibe from Tia. And anyway, they send somebody into... I think the Emperor's trying to kidnap Letitia so that he can name her heir or whatever, and then she'll be good. And that lady proves to
Natalia and Burnett.
Yeah.
Burnett is the crown prince. And... Oh, no. Okay. No, they're husband and wife.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
That was the vibe I got.
Why did I think that they were brother and sister?
But she winds up like single-handedly taking out an army. So good call on Tia's part. She gets the maids out. She gets the ladies in waiting out. She gets Letitia out. She gets them over to the Empress's palace. Cedric survives all the traps they set for him. He murders an army too, and basically violently puts down whatever rebellion it is. At this point, the Emperor falls into a coma, which we talked about a lot in the previous episode. And
just to remind everybody, he's been being served a slow-acting poison by his butler for at least a couple years.
It was the goddamn honey tea.
And again, the butler was like, I'll serve you until one of us dies. Wink.
Probably going to be you, though. Yeah. And Cedric takes over the Empire. He did it kind of violently in the middle of the night. So it would be super unwise of Cedric to leave the capital right now before his power is thoroughly consolidated. But Tia's in trouble in the West. And Cedric has ordered her to come back a couple of times. And she hasn't come back, and so Cedric rightly concludes that she does not intend to come back. Whatever she's doing over there, she's probably going to kill herself doing, because that is just something she is damn determined to do.
I don't know. This isn't super important to the story, but while all the rebellion's not, while all the unrest is going on and like their house is getting attacked, the servants and that woman, they take Letitia to the palace.
The Empress's palace.
The Empress's palace. And that's important because they're basically like, hey, the Empress, please protect this baby. There's people specifically coming after the baby. And the fact that Tia had established a relationship, an alliance with the Empress previously, and then add on to the fact that the Empress doesn't want more kids getting killed. So she uses her power to protect them, which lets Cedric get into a position where he can take over.
Yep. So now it's time for Lawrence.
So before Lawrence went west, he and Licia meet up, and basically, I think at this point, so Licia had fully regained her memories from the past. Mm-hmm. Lawrence was getting hints of it.
He was attracted to her for reasons he couldn't fully understand.
Right.
And
so he goes and he's like, hey, I love you. You should come with me. And Licia's like, are you going to stop being a psychopath? And he's like, nah. And she's like, okay, I'm not going to go with you then.
And he's like, counterpoint, I'm going to murder your entourage and kidnap you.
That doesn't happen until she goes west. So
yeah.
they meet up first, in the capital. And then later, so Tia sends Licia to the west to try and deal with the plague. At which point, at some point, she shows up in a village and like things don't seem right. And then like they get attacked by quote unquote bandits and she gets kidnapped. Oh, and it turns out Lawrence is actually the head of these bandits.
Really unclear to me how Lawrence managed to attract so many guys to fight for him.
That's a good point. Promises, probably.
Yeah, he looks pretty enough to be a noble. He doesn't seem to have a lot of cash on him, but
I think that Lawrence isn't a total pushover in a fight. I mean, he was being raised to be to potentially be the emperor. So I think he's had training.
It's tough when Cedric has like thrown him up against a wall multiple times now and told him basically to fuck off.
Cedric is also like a foot taller than everyone else in the whole series.
Yeah.
He's also like 3 feet taller than Tia, which is so weird when they stand next to each other. You're like, wait a minute. She looks like she's normal sized. He's huge.
You know, I feel like when I was young, I do not remember height being such a big deal in male attractiveness. Like, I knew people liked, tall, dark, and handsome. That's the thing. But, like, I don't remember all of this, like, the stuff you see on, like, dating app nightmares where it's like, oh, you're 5'6", next.
I read one the other day. They're going back and forth. She's like, how tall are you? He's like 5'7". She's like, says, some derogatory thing about his height. And he goes, you're 4'11".
Yeah, I don't know when this started or like if it's even real. Like, I don't even know if real people care about this or if this is just people on the internet. But like, these comics do make me think maybe there's something to it, because the dude is always like 7 feet tall.
Yeah,
It's insane how tall they are. I don't know. Maybe you just want to be like held like a stuffed animal. Maybe that's the female fantasy here.
maybe. I'll tell you, as someone who's 6'4", never did me any good.
Yeah, that is I'm of a normal height, and I would point this out a lot. But when I stand next to you and Moxie, I look like a child.
Okay, where are we at? So Lawrence has kidnapped Licia. He's going around being a bandit king for some reason. Why he feels the need to...
Oh, he's like spreading plague intentionally.
I'm not entirely clear what his plan was. I mean, obviously he wants to create chaos.
Oh, he's gone insane. He got his memories back, and he has all the memories of being the emperor. And his main problem with being the emperor was he got bored. He's like, I just order somebody to die and then they're dead. He's like, it's not fun anymore. It was fun to become the emperor.
I guess there is a point there. He literally is a psychopath.
Yeah. And now he doesn't want to be the emperor anymore. Like, because everybody's looking at him like, how is this going to help him be the emperor? He's behaving in a way that is like not benefiting him. And it's like, what you guys don't realize is he doesn't care about that anymore. He wants to torture Licia because I would say he's attracted to her, but like, honestly, this goes beyond like any kind of like sexual or romantic attraction. He's like, he wants to torture her. He takes pleasure in her pain. And
yet she continues to be like, hey, I want you to do better. There's still a chance. It's like, girl, what are you on?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, she makes the right decision in the end, but no, he does just want to. He would like to roam the countryside, torturing, killing, causing destruction, until somebody kills him, and that's like he's gone like full Joker mode. He's just chaos now.
So, what we get to is Tia finds out that Lawrence is enacting the plan that she came up with in her previous life to cause lots of destruction, which will destabilize a lot of stuff, and then in the previous timeline allow Lawrence to solidify his position as crown prince and then eventually become the emperor. In this timeline, he's doing that because it's just going to cause lots of destruction. The plan being that there are specific places in the West along rivers where infrastructure has been built in order to sort of change the flow of the river in order to create these agricultural areas. And what happens is that if there's like river banks, and I think there's a dam somewhere, and there's all these different places where if those things were to be damaged, massive flooding would occur. It would take out the fields. It would take out villages. Hundreds of people would die. The food crops would be ruined. There would be a starvation, like just a huge cascade of events from a couple well-placed explosives. Tia finds out about this as she's going back towards the Capitol. She's finally like, okay, we got to go back to the Capitol. And then she gets these reports of like, there's these bandits and they're over in this area. And she realizes, oh, they're setting up that thing.
She found out Lycia got kidnapped too.
Yeah, I think that was...
Because she finds all the murdered guards. There's a moment where she's like walking through like a bunch of the corpses doing the North has that funeral custom.
Right. Well, and there's a specific guard who, I'm sorry, I forget his name, but he was like a named character who people liked, and his death was like a catalyst for people.
Well, he was like Cedric's right-hand man. And it's the same kind of role you see in a lot of these Otome Isekai comics. Like, he was the knight, the right-hand man, like next to Cedric in combat power, and he was put in charge of Lycia's protection for a little while there, and so she knew him. But
he was the one who you would go, oh, since he's not second male lead, he's going to get with Lycia.
Yeah, and he went with Lycia, and then they wind up surrounded, and they're fucked, and he just fights to the death.
I think Lawrence kills him specifically, doesn't he?
Yeah. He kills everyone Lycia was with, except Lycia.
Right.
And
but I think it was specifically he shoots him like.
But Tia realizes that this is Lawrence because this flood plan, I think you mentioned this before, is Lycia or not. This flood plan is Tia's plan.
Yeah.
Tia did this in the past to give Lawrence some kind of advantage, basically to take Cedric out of the game.
Yeah.
And Lawrence, I don't even, because he doesn't even care about being emperor anymore. He's just doing the plan to send a message to Tia. I remember.
Yeah.
And
so Tia's headed back to the Capitol. She finds out that this riverbank explosion plan is happening. She's like, we have to stop this. If we don't stop this, it's going to cause this cascade of events. It'd be bad for everybody.
Well, I don't think she was planning to head back. I think she was like all in on saving Lycia. She's planning on, again, dying for Lycia so that she can hook up with Cedric.
Oh, I could have sworn they were headed back to the Capitol. Because I thought she had got to the point where she was like, I can't save Lycia with just this small group that I have with me.
I don't think she was planning to go back. I forget what she was planning to do. I could be wrong, though. Get in the comments if I'm wrong.
This was the last thing that happened. The fact that we can't remember this is bad. This was just like 2 months ago. Now, I read it 2 months ago. You read it a week and a half ago, so it's really bad. You don't.
I think the way I remember it was we cut from the stuff in the Capitol to Tia in these plague villages and finding all of these northerners killed. And she realizes that Lawrence, they find the explosives on one of the bridges or something.
Right.
And she realizes that Lawrence is doing this and she has to free Lycia. And I believe as they're riding towards Lawrence's position, around that time, Lycia got the gun that was like the symbol of authority, and she gave it to a maid and told the maid to get out of there and tell people what was going on. And Tia meets that maid on the road, and that maid also starts to remember. And it's around this, like, Tia's planning something, but her plan doesn't wind up happening because Cedric shows up. And Tia is like, what the fuck are you doing here? You just survived a coup. You need to be in the Capitol consolidating power. And that's when Cedric's like, I told you to come back. I told you to take care of yourself. I told you to stop doing things behind my back. And you just won't listen. You just won't listen. So we're going to save Lycia, and then we're going to talk about this later. And that's what I remember.
Wait a minute. I remember this differently. Because what I remember is that Cedric doesn't show up until Tia is... and Cedric jumps in.
He does. He goes... They split up for some reason. I could be wrong. I feel like they met up first, agreed to
might be
save
right.
Lycia, and then they go in different directions. She goes to try to take care of the infrastructure, and he goes to meet Lawrence.
Okay. So Lawrence and Lycia are on one horse. They're riding towards this stuff that's going to happen. At this point, he gets abandoned by all these people. And I believe they were like mostly made up of like second and third sons that were going to be like of noble houses.
Yeah.
Like those are the leaders because they're not going to get anything. And so and Lawrence is like, if you come with me, I'll make sure you get the title. At this point, they notice that like, oh, he's just going to destroy the kingdom. He's not going to be in charge. And so they abandon him.
Yeah.
So it's just him and Lycia. And Tia is over and they find these explosives. They're like, oh, this is going to happen. They take out the people who were going to light off the explosives. And so it's like, oh, good. We've done this. Now we just have to clean up the explosives to make sure nothing happens. And as they're going to do that, was it like a delayed magic that set one of them off?
Lawrence starts a forest fire.
Oh, yeah.
To just set it all off.
Yeah. So basically the big one, the really important one, which is like a riverbank that was built up as like a levee, gets taken out. And so it's like, oh my God, there's going to be this huge rush of water. It's going to be this huge flood. So Tia, a magic user, remember, she's the one who turned back time.
And God told her to revert, whatever the hell that meant.
I think the spell that she was doing was a time spell, a reverse time spell again.
Yeah.
Because what she was going to do was reverse time for just this area.
Yes. She was going to, reverse the bridge's destruction.
So she's doing this spell, and it's like, it's sucking away her life force, and she's like, oh, I hope I have enough life force left to actually complete this, but even if I die, like, hopefully I've done enough, and that's good and everything. And then, out of nowhere, Lycia's maid pushes Tia into the circle.
Well, Tia, I think at this point she realizes that the magic's going a little wonky. And she realizes that the initial spell she cast to turn back time, she was supposed to remove herself. And it never finished. She removed a lot of the time, but it didn't work the way she intended. That's why people keep remembering it. That's why she's still here.
Yeah, the magic is still ongoing.
And so this magic starts taking a part of her, and she tells somebody to like, hey, like hold my hand. I'm going to have a hard time hanging on. She like loses a finger. And she starts to think like, oh no, I'm going to have to finish the spell the way it was intended. I'm going to have to fully disappear. I'm going to have to give my whole life. And I think her servants are trying to like get her, like, it's enough now. You got to pull back. Come on. Like let the dam blow up. Okay. It's just going to have to happen.
And she's going, oh, I've gone on an emotional journey, and I think that maybe I agree with them, and that I won't sacrifice my life here.
She still wants to do it, but she's hesitating, and she's like, am I hesitating because I finally I want to be here to see my daughter grow up, and I want to be here for Cedric, and I have something to lose now. And that's when Lycia's maid comes in and, you know, football kicks her into the middle of the circle. And she's like, yes, you're right. Thank you, whatever your name was. For a moment, I hesitated too long. But you're right. I can't be forgiven. I need to die in this magic circle. And everybody's like, there's a force field around it, and people are like banging on it. They're like, no, Tia. And somebody restrains the maid, and she's like, I remember everything you did, you bitch. You're going to have to die. And Tia's like, you're totally right. And then Cedric just runs up. He's like, I don't know when Lycia gets her gun back, if Cedric handed her a gun or something, but...
No, so this happened right before all this goes down. Lycia and Lawrence are like, you know, half a mile away at this point. They hear the explosion go off. The horse gets spooked, I think, and runs off. So they like fall off, and they have this back and forth. In the scuffle, Lycia gets Lawrence's gun.
Yeah, and I think he takes a wound, right? And he's like on his knees.
Yeah.
And then Lycia's like, she tells Cedric, go, I got this, because Lawrence is down. And Cedric takes off, and so we'll put a pin in Lawrence. And
put something in him.
Cedric takes off, and he's pounding on this thing, and he just punches his way into the magic circle. And he's like, I don't know how many times I got to tell you this, Tia, but you're going to stop unilaterally making decisions that affect our relationship, and you're going to stop trying to kill yourself all the fucking time. And we're doing this together, and they do it together. And that's a really sweet romantic moment. Now let's take that pin out of Lawrence. And Lycia's like, I thought I could change you. I wanted to make you better. I thought like it would all be worth it if I could just make you the man you're supposed to be. And Lawrence is like, I'm evil.
Lycia, mental health issues run in the family.
She's like, you're right. They do. Shoots him in the face. Now we don't
Somebody mentioned in the comments that they think that she manifested a bullet, that the gun was empty.
She does say something about that. She does say something about using the divine power to heal, but this one time she's going to use it like selfishly or something. And she's going to use it to destroy, and puts a bullet through his head. I don't know what that was about. Point is, Lycia kills him. And
yeah.
Thank God for that. But now, Tia, the next thing I remember is Tia wakes up. Her hand is wrapped. She did legitimately lose a finger, just like Frodo.
This is my favorite part. They're like, oh, the magic has severely aged her.
She has crow's feet.
And then they
now.
show her, and it's like, oh, her hair is slightly less golden.
She's got two little lines next to her eyes. Are you kidding me? She looks tired. She's going to always look tired from now on. That's the price she had to pay. And then Lycia comes in. She's like, I used my holy power to heal you. You gave up a bunch of your lifespan. I don't know how much. I restored most of your lifespan, but I don't know how much. And so you're healed, but you're not healed. You could die at any moment. I don't know what I did exactly. I kind of suspect the translator lost the thread at this point. I have no idea what the fuck the consequences of Tia's actions were.
So a spoiler that I read which isn't a huge spoiler, but apparently they make it a point that if Tia is sleeping, Cedric's the only one who's allowed to try and wake her because they want to keep Leticia from finding her dead because they don't know when she's going to die. She could just die in her sleep at any moment.
Yeah, I mean, so could I. What the fuck does that mean?
That was my thought too. It's like that could happen to anybody. What are you doing? But I guess if you have a much higher chance of that, it does make sense to like, hey, we're not going to let the child be traumatized by finding their parent.
This is the one thing I'll say, like, that's a real have your cake and eat it too moment, author. She sacrificed something, maybe a lot. I don't know.
Right.
She's alive for as long as I want her to be. Shut up.
But also, I mean, Cedric, he sacrificed too. His hair is slightly gray now.
He also has crow's feet. He's also going to look eternally tired. Yeah. This is the one where I'll say, as an elderly person, that's not what we look like. This is where it felt like it was written by a
she
young
looks
person.
like she's in her late 30s, but she's only 20.
To be fair, if I was 18 and I woke up looking like I was in my early 30s, I would be kind of pissed. That would be a shocking thing to me. I used to be young and beautiful. Now I look like this.
So yeah, I mean that basically wraps up all the antagonists. Gregor is still alive, but he's in a coma. Cedric is basically emperor at this point. They're gonna have to wrap that up.
I don't know if Gregor's gonna wake up for one last fuck you, but
he's out. In the latest chapter, Tia goes and visits her mom at the monastery to have a little therapy session for herself and tell her mom that she forgives her and
she doesn't forgive her.
Oh, right. But she, God, what was it? I just read this.
She kind of says, from what I remember, she says, she basically has a bunch of feelings about her mom. She doesn't forgive her. She thought that she would be like her mom. And
oh, right. The mom apologizes.
And that's why she has avoided raising her own child. But she thinks now that she could be better than her mom, and she's going to try to raise her child. And she wanted her to know maybe that there's no hard feelings, like I don't have any animosity towards you. I'm ready to let that go. But this is probably going to be the last time I ever see you. And this is closure for me. And, nuts to you, Mom. And the mom goes, Tia, I'm sorry. And then the chapter ends, and that's a hell of a cliffhanger because I don't think Tia ever expected in any universe that her mom was going to apologize, especially knowing that she wasn't going to get anything out of the apology. So I do wonder where that's going to go. I would be interested to know if Tia would have any relationship with her mother going forward. Because her mom is crazy. Like, I say that as somebody with mental health issues. And I mean that to say, like, I don't think her mom could really help some of the wild mood swings she has. I don't think that's an excuse for any of her behavior. Don't get me wrong. I think the mom still deserves to be separated from society. I definitely wouldn't allow her.
Mental health is not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
Yeah. Like, I don't think I'd allow her a bunch of unsupervised time with my child, but I might let her see the child. Like I don't, she's got to stay where she is, but like we could visit. I don't know. what I'm realizing reading this is like I'm way more of a softie than everybody else reading this. Everybody else reading this is like, Aubrey should die. She's a terrible person, and Tia's mom should die. She's a terrible person. And I'm like, wow.
I didn't think Aubrey should die up until the last thing.
Yeah, I will give you that. Like, I eventually did get on Team Aubrey. Aubrey's got to go. But
Moralia, the only reason I would say she shouldn't die is because the thing that she did that would deserve death was specifically put in her path. She was completely set up. Now, she still chose to move forward with it. It's still her responsibility, but she would not have done something so utterly crazy unless it was literally lined up for her.
yeah, I mean, but that's my thing with Aubrey too, though, is like, there are scenarios in which it didn't need to get to this point.
Well, nobody set her up to give away state secrets.
No, that's true. But I also think she had no idea. She didn't comprehend that that's what she was doing. And unfortunately, she is just too dangerous to be allowed to go. Like, you have to do better than that.
So, like, if someone were to store a bunch of classified documents in their bathroom and potentially be selling them to another country, it's possible that they're just too dumb to understand.
I'd feel bad, but like you know too much to be in the position you're in, and you need to be like taken care of. But yeah, I don't know. I think, and I know the Bato comments are kind of like the cheering crowd. Like they're all very like, it feels like a wrestling crowd. They're all very like, there's heels and there's villains, and that's where you are and that's where you shall be. But this one's a little deeper than that, and I think, I don't know. I think I have more empathy for the characters we're supposed to hate than maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm supposed to.
Again, like I said, the only ones that I unremittingly hate are Lawrence and Aubrey.
Yeah, Lawrence, I got nothing for Lawrence. But that's also why he's the least interesting bad guy.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why he's sort of like out of the picture for a while until it's like, okay, we need to wrap up this Lawrence storyline.
Lawrence is more there for Lycia's character arc than for anything else. But yeah, we're caught up.
We are. And I think if we come back to this on, because it isn't 100% complete, but if we come back to this in a revisit episode,
the Villainess lives
like 8
thrice.
chapters left or something like that, I don't think we're going to be re-rubricing this.
No, I mean, it's already rubricing pretty high, spoiler. So
now that we have thoroughly covered the entire story of The Villainess Lives Again.
The thing is, we didn't.
Well,
like, there's more.
You know that knight character that I mentioned that I was like, actually, he's important. Well, there's like 30 more of those.
There's a reporter we didn't talk much about.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah,
when I was looking at this character list, that crown prince and princess that were important near the end that we mentioned, there's 2 other characters from the same kingdom that are important that we didn't even mention. There's other royalty in the Amal kingdom. I'm looking down this character list. The queen who gets murdered, they have a picture of her. And just to drive the point home of actually she doesn't matter all that much besides what we're told about her, the only picture of her is she's in the background. She's got no pupils. She's just white eyes. That's so low detail that she doesn't even have real eyes. That's how important she is.
Like a doll's eyes.
There's so many people on this list. Brother Colton. That's the monk guy.
Oh,
He's the
yeah.
good one. Yeah, there's no way that we could cover
No.
all these people.
No, like I said, you could do a whole podcast on just this comic. Like, you could go through each season, could be a season of a podcast easily.
The other funny thing is I'm looking down this list of characters, and they spell the names differently from like one line to the next.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that.
Well, anyway, we're going to move on from that because now it is time to rubric. As always, you can find the rubric that we use out on our website, animepodcast@reincarnation.com. There's an interactive rubric. You can go and you can click on the little squares, and then it'll give you the score at the end. So feel free to rubric along with us. Come in the Discord. Let us know how you rubriced it. I don't think I want to include romance.
Really?
There is some romance in this, but it is so inconsequential as that I would say it doesn't matter at all.
I don't know. I mean, I think Tia and Cedric's relationship is kind of like the core of the story.
If we include romance, it's going to be really low.
Really?
I didn't, like, you're not entirely wrong, but like, even now, so close to the end, I mean, maybe in the last 4 chapters, they're going to turn things around, but there's almost no romance between them. It's basically just Cedric going, hey, you need to value yourself more the entire time.
Yeah, maybe that's true.
Like,
I
you
don't
barely
think I'd-
got anything when she got pregnant. Like, there was just like a passing mention of the fact that they spent the night together.
All right. I'll say, yeah, I think I could see it. I was going to say, I don't know if I'd rate the romance low, but now that you mention it, I'm not sure this is what people would necessarily be looking for when they're looking for a romance comic. I think this is
No, if someone wanted
this is more a character
romance
drama.
yeah, I would be like,
Yeah.
no,
All
don't read
right.
this one for romance.
All right, we'll take out romance.
All right, so to start us off with content and ideas, I'm going to go with a 5.
Yep, I agree.
I don't think anybody would be surprised by this, but even in spite of the fact that I felt lost at times, there were enough points in this that made me go, oh, I remember that from then, and that's what's happening now. That they tie things together so well, and just the fact that it's like setting stuff up so far in advance, and it's done really, really well.
Yeah, I think there's a legitimate amount of world building. I think if I wanted to get really nitpicky, I think the geography could use a little work. I think there's a little bit of inconsistency there, but like, it's reading this in translation and like fan translation at that, I can't really pick on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's not like it's the craziest setup. I mean, originality is kind of relative here, but I would say the plot is original.
Yeah.
The political intrigue is original. It's very much an otome isekai. It has many of the tropes, but yeah, I think it's performing at a pretty high degree there in terms of story. I can't really find a fault with the story.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't remember a single time. Like, I was confused by things sometimes, but there was never a point where I thought that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'll talk about. I think that bleeds into pacing and structure for me, where
Sure.
I'm also at a 5.
Yeah.
Because I was actually blown away by some of the setups and payoffs. I love the slow burn.
I can't speak to the pacing and structure quite as well as you can because I have been reading week to week for years.
That's what I was going to say. The pacing and structure is only limited by the dimension of time in which you have to explore this comic in.
But specifically, I will say there was no chapter that I read where I felt like that chapter was worthless. Something important happened basically every single chapter, whether or not you knew it was important at the time or not.
Yeah. Coming from Words About Books, where we do mostly novels, one of the things I'm noticing as I get into these web serials is it is really important to make me want to turn the page at the end of the chapter. And this does this really well. And it doesn't rely on just
cliffhangers,
like gotchas or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't pull drama out of nowhere. It's little things like one word bubble saying, "I'm sorry," makes me excited for the next chapter. That means you have done a very good job as a writer.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I have much more to say about that. The fact that I always wanted to read more of this.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that I was confused a lot of the time. There were stretches of 20, 30 chapters where I would be like, I don't know what's happening right now. I don't remember who that character is that just had this happen. But then you figure it out, especially if you're reading it all at once. I think you're not quite going to have those problems. They still exist, but not to the degree that you'd have if you've gone 2 years before like when you last saw a character and now it's been 2 years and you see them again and you go, who?
Yeah. It's like when you're sitting here trying to summarize hundreds and hundreds of pages of intricate plot.
Yeah.
Like it does make it sound like it's convoluted. It's really not. It's just a big world and it's a lot to keep in your head.
Yeah.
But it is definitely meant to be read. I guess I would maybe fault that as something in the serial, but like if I could take it as a whole novel, I think it's doing pacing as well as it possibly can.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to keep the trend up. I'm giving characters a 5.
Yeah, it's a 5. It's the best characters I've read in any of these comics.
The thing that really stood out to me with this is just how fleshed out so many of the characters are. It really feels like the author knew all of these characters inside and out.
Yeah, and they're not, though some of them are tropes, they're well-rounded tropes, and their motivations, like I know what each character wants. I know what they're averse to. I know why they want it, and what they want and how they go about getting it drives the story. It is the story.
Yeah. I will say, because it's not every single character that you get that for. Just by the very nature of the fact that there are so many characters in this, there are a bunch of characters that you don't really get enough out of. Now, that's also maybe in the novel you do. And maybe the manga just does not have room to do that.
I don't. There's a problem in some of these comics where it's like, I believe that this character only exists in the context of this other character. Like
right.
like there have been some where it's like, okay, when the female lead closes her eyes, these maids cease to exist.
Yeah.
I don't believe that is the case, even with the side characters here.
Yeah.
Like her ladies in waiting all have their own lives. I can imagine what they do when they go home.
Right.
And again, I think there was a lot of thought that went into each character.
Right. Yeah. So even the characters that you don't get a full picture of, they don't feel wrong. It doesn't feel like you're missing something. It just feels like, oh, there's so much going on. It feels like real life. It's like a person that you had a 5-minute conversation with passing on the street. It's like that person has their entire life behind them, but you don't know anything about them. But they said this thing to you. They had this conversation, and that stuck with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what it feels like. Yeah. It's really, I don't know how you write something like this, honestly. Like,
nah, she's got to have like some kind of like thought board with like pins and lines going everywhere, and
they should share that.
Yeah, they should.
All right. So, spoiler alert, moving into the art stuff is where this is going to lose some points.
I agree. I'm glad we agree.
Art competency, I'm going to go with, this is a little painful, a 3.
I went with a 3, and it wasn't painful at all. I don't like the art that much.
Yeah. Well, it's painful for me because I want to give this series as much credit as possible, but like the art, it's just not good. It's not so bad as to be distracting most of the time.
I don't want to come at the artist super hard because the artist is fine. It's a mismatch of art and writing. It's
And I don't want this to be like the stylistic nature of like Mother's Contract Marriage. I don't think it should do that because that would distract from the story. But it needs to have better art. The art does not live up to the story.
It needs to. It's like when you go back and, if you're me, you read a Tezuka novel, and everybody looks like an old.
Which one, Ben? Which one did you read?
Oh shit! Where is it? It's called IL, and it is a fucking fever dream. I will write a blog post on it, but there's one I'm reading right now where everybody looks like a fucking old-timey Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse cartoon. And it's like Twilight Zone psychosexual David Lynch weirdness.
Rest in peace.
And it's like, what is wrong with the man who draws this like that? Like, and he can do other things. Like, he draws panels in it that are like realist. And I don't know why he chooses the Mickey Mouse aesthetic. He's a weird guy, Osamu Tezuka. And that's, while there's a lot of history there and there's a lot of thought behind it. And it's like, I kind of like, I understand Webtoon as a style. I understand people expect this to look a certain way. Webtoon isn't a super serious style to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, like, this, as Webtoons go, it seems like it's a fairly inexperienced artist, especially when they start, especially season 1.
Yeah.
And
we should note the art does get better.
Yeah.
But it never gets good enough.
It's good for a Webtoon. And that's,
I would say it's fine for a Webtoon.
Yeah.
I would not say it's good. This is like the standard manhwa style, but not executed properly. In the way that I Will Master This Family does the manhwa style perfectly. This is the manhwa style, but not executed well.
No, and it's just, I mean, it really stands out against the material on the page because I don't want to hit this artist super hard because, like I said, I don't think it's the artist's fault. I don't think they should have been chosen for this project. And I think maybe the people
the story deserves better.
Yeah, maybe the people who put this project together didn't really know what they had.
Yeah.
That's the vibe I kept getting reading this. Is like, I wish this weren't a webtoon.
Yeah,
Is what I
honestly,
kept.
this probably would have been one of those series where if they would have switched to a better artist after season 1, it would have gone a long way.
Yeah, I think this. I'd go so far as to say like this deserves a remake. Like
I'd read it.
I don't know. I think.
Or a television show.
Yeah, honestly, like I'd watch the like a Downton Abbey version of this. Honest to God,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to read the novel. I kept thinking, man, I wish that weren't a webtoon, and I hope that's not condescending because I do like the webtoon stuff, but I don't like it for this. And so, and it's like you said, even compared to other webtoons, we're not doing anything super special here.
Yeah. This is one where you could have got very close to 100 out of 100 on this rubric, but there's one glaring failure, and that is the art.
The novel, if I just look at the stuff that's not art, it's like a 95 out of 100 for me.
Yeah.
But, and this bleeds into visual effects, stylistic flourish.
You'll have to cover that on Words About Books then.
Yeah. But
which is apparently what you're doing. You're just covering light novels now. So
I did one light novel because a guy was following me around. He was in your Discord recommending it too. So
yeah.
Hi, Kevin. He's probably listening to this.
Kevin's got good taste.
Yeah, Kevin's a good guy. So visual effects, stylistic flourish. It's also a 3 for me.
Okay. I'm going to give stylistic flourish a 4 because especially against the not so great character designs and stuff, I think they actually did a pretty good job, especially, as getting into the later seasons, of doing cool panel transitions, nice camera angles, like those kind of things. They got a lot better with that. So even though the actual art style didn't reach the level that it needed to, their ability to lay out that art, to connect from scene to scene, I think they came a long way with that, and I want to give them credit there.
I could do best I can do is a 3.5. I do think there's a point there, because a couple of the moments, like I do remember certain panels, like when Cedric drops the sword in front of Aubrey's father.
Yeah.
And when Roygar is found holding the dueling pistol. And I think the artist has a good eye for direction. I think what's like the paneling is good and the way they structure a scene is good, but the technical skill is still a little lacking. So I could do a 3.5 because I think there's a lot of potential there. I think it's just a shame they got this one so early in their career.
Yeah. Well, we don't have 0.5, so unfortunately,
Then
we'll have to split the difference between our two scores.
Then I'll do a 3.
Personal preference. I think I sort of spoiled this earlier when I said this is one of the ones that I have to read every single time, like as soon as it comes out. I'm going with a 5.
I'm also at a 5. One of my favorites that we've read.
Yeah. I think it actually goes a long way for me to say that I would look forward to this every week, even though I was confused.
Probably the only one, I'll be honest, probably the only one I'd consider reading like all the way through again.
Well, we know you can get through it in 3 days, so.
You can. I don't know if I'd do that again, but you can.
I think it might be worthwhile for you to check out the novel.
If they have, I mean, can I buy the novel or do I have to go on Tappy Tunes?
That's a good question.
Because I'm not going to buy a chapter of a novel. That's the day I stop reading books.
Let's see. Well, it doesn't pop up on like Amazon. Where is the official place that this lives?
I knew the comic was on Tappy Tunes, and so there's probably some publishing arm attached to that. We could look into it, or if anybody knows where to get the novel. I think Raina had read it, but I don't know if she read a fan translation.
Original publisher. Okay, let's see. Nope, that's the. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not seeing stuff. But yeah, doing a Google search for it.
Well, if anyone
Definitely
knows where I could
seems
get, like where if I could buy a solid translation, because I do not speak a word of Korean. I think I know front kick from Taekwondo, but like if I could get a decent translation of the novel, and if I could buy it not a chapter at a time, that'd be ideal. I'd be willing to.
I don't know if there's an official English translation of this.
And that's kind of a shame too. I'd like to see this stuff get more attention, because I think there'd be a good market for this.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it at all on the official English site of its publisher in Korean. So yeah, I don't think there's a official English for this. That's unfortunate.
I'll write them a letter.
There's plenty of places you can read not the official version.
If I have to read it on my computer, that's going to take a while.
You just said you got an iPad. Read it on there.
I said I got my wife an iPad. See if I can get it away from her.
All right. Well, we gotta finish this off strong with recommendation strength.
I'm between
This is a tough one for me.
I'm between a 4 and a 5, and I think I'm leaning 4.
Because as much as I want to say, like, there's stuff in here that, like, you don't have to be a genre fan for this, because it is like very Game of Thrones like. It should have a wider pull than normal manhwa that we cover on here, but I don't think I can go up to a 5 just because of how dense it is.
See, unfortunately for me, it was kind of the art. Like, I think, like, I know people who I have talked about Game of Thrones and this kind of drama with, and it's like the text is super literary and the art is super cartoony, and I think that dissonance makes it hard to recommend to people that don't have a little bit of familiarity with this kind of content pipeline.
Yeah.
And a challenge when explaining Otome Isekai to people that I have had, when I try to tell them, like, people who know I do a book podcast, when I try to tell them about this podcast that I do, and I tell them it's Otome Isekai, and then I have to explain, like, it's like web comics from Korea that are made to scroll on your phone, and they're usually based on web novels, which are published in, and like I find myself explaining an entire industry pipeline that most people don't know anything about. And so, like, I think my ideal for a 5 would be something that just makes sense on its face. And I think because the art is so disconnected from the plot, it makes it kind of hard, and that's why I bumped this down to a 4. But it was, it's not much bumping it down to a 4. I probably could recommend the web novel to anyone, but
So my thing with this, I agree with all your points, but the bigger thing for me with not really recommending this to literally everyone is the fact that it sort of takes a while to see how amazing it is. And I don't know that a lot of people would be able to invest that time to get there, you know?
yeah, I agree, and I think we might be saying the same thing from a different angle. Is like I don't think it's what people expect when they get into one of these.
Right. And I think the beginning of this is a hook for genre fans.
Yeah.
The beginning of this looks like a regular Otome isekai. You go, oh, she was a villainess and she turned back time and now she's gonna, and then you go, wait a minute, there's a lot going on here. And so it takes a while. If you're not a genre fan, the beginning of this won't hook you. And I think there's people out there that, based on a recommendation, would, and especially a recommendation with a caveat of, you got to read at least this far, would get into it, but that's not enough for a general recommendation for most people.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to do it for the rubric. So I have ended up with an 85.
81.
So there you have it. That is a highly rated series. All right, that'll do it. We have come to the end of The Villainess Lives Again.
It was a journey.
I hope everybody enjoyed that. If you're still with us now, 5 hours into this conversation, good job. I think we're probably going to be a little over 5 hours worth of talking about The Villainess Lives Again here.
Truly, this is the Dune of Otome Isekai.
Yeah, really. And it's not even over yet.
Yeah.
Very close, though. As I said before, we will probably revisit this, but it'll be like a 10-minute portion of a revisit episode. So, and we won't be re-rubricking it. Unless something drastic happens. But we've already given so much of it 5s. The art isn't going to go up in the last couple chapters. Really, the only thing that could change would be recommendation strike. I don't think that wouldn't change either.
I don't know why I'm blanking on his name, but like the last 7 chapters are drawn by the Vagabond guy.
The Vagabond guy?
I forget who writes Vagabond.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Takahiko Inoue. Look up Vagabond. I think he did Slam Dunk as well. Yeah, he's one of my favorite manga artists. So if you get him to, come in for the last 7 chapters, I'll be
Boost art competency just because of the last 8 chapters.
I would if they got him to come in and do it. I would.
All right, so now we're going to talk about what we're going to do next time. So, as always, our patrons get to vote on what we cover on this series. If you have listened this far and you're really invested in listening to us talk about all these series, you can join us on our Patreon. All the tiers get to vote on the picks for this. And so what we will do, we've got a couple listed here that will go up in a poll. the day that this releases, and you'll have a week from the time the poll goes up to when it closes to vote on what we're going to cover. So I've picked out a couple here, and there's a surprise one. There's an extra thing in here that I hope people get excited about. So kicking things off, we've got Not So Wicked Stepmom. I think that was one that I had on the list for a little while now. It's cute and fun. I really enjoy it. So looking forward to that episode when that happens. Maybe next time. I guess we'll find out. Next, also coming from the last poll, Surviving Romance. This was recommended to us by a listener, Annie. We're gonna keep that on the list at least for now. Annie's a relatively new listener and recommended two things, one of which was already on the list, but Surviving Romance was not. So that's one that I have not read yet. And last, I put this one on here because of how much the drama has, how well the drama episodes have been doing. This is How to Win My Husband Over. Ben, you don't know about this one at all, do you?
No.
Everybody who knows this one is probably screaming right now. It's a bit depressing, to say the least.
It's depressing?
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't sound
It's
like
really,
it would be depressing.
It's really good. It's really good. So yeah, you can vote on those. And this time, I don't know if I'm going to keep this one on here or if maybe I'll just do this every once in a while. I'm adding this fourth option for a revisit episode. Oh
my God.
So I was looking over what we covered before. We had talked about the fact that, stuff has ended and everything. It's actually very few that have ended that we've covered.
Yeah.
There's a couple that were complete when we covered them. So those won't get revisit episodes. But for the first revisit episode, there's really only two. And that is Kill the Villainess from our first episode of Heroine Addiction and Solitary Lady.
Oh, okay.
So both of those have ended. And I think at least Kill the Villainous was before we started rubricing.
Yeah.
So let me double check real quick. So Kill the Villainous and Solitary Lady. Yeah, we do not have. So I think Solitary Lady we did actually rubric, but that was before I was keeping track of it properly.
Ah.
So the score for that is not tracked up on the site. So both of those we will need to rubric. So if we do a revisit episode, you can look forward to that.
Can do.
So there you have it. Once again, you can go on our Patreon and sign up. Our lowest tier is only $1. If you just want to vote for Heroine Addiction episodes, you can join that lowest tier and vote.
The poll text here.
And don't forget to join us on Discord. If we get ties in the poll, the vote then goes over to Discord. So if you can't quite stretch $1 far enough, you can join our Discord for free. And if there's a tie, then you'll get to vote. So, all right, well, that'll do it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging on for all this time. If you've listened this far, just go join the Discord and let us know.
Yeah, you might as well just talk to us. We're old friends at this point.
Yeah, right. Well, before we go, I want to thank Sugoi Mart for partnering with us. Sugoi Mart's a retailer of Japanese snacks, drinks, toys, and merch, and they got a lot of cool stuff you can't get outside Japan. Our listeners can click the link in the description or use code APR15 at checkout to get 15% off their first order. And as I just mentioned, we want to hear from you. So, come check out our social media, which you can find links for on our website, animepodcasterreincarnation.com. As I mentioned, Discord, the best place to talk to us, but you can also leave comments on the posts up on the website, and you can find us on a bunch of different social media platforms for as long as those exist. And once again, you can check out our Patreon. Besides getting to vote on what we cover on heroin addiction, our supporters also get perks like bonus episodes and getting the high-quality stereo version of the podcast early. And if there's any perks that you'd like, if you're withholding your money until more perks show up, let me know what those are. We'll do quite a lot to get new patrons.
You want me to dance? I'll dance. I'm not going to dance, but Brad will dance.
Moxie will dance.
Moxie will dance. There you go.
And of course, we have to shout out our patrons. First and foremost, at our noble tier, we have our marquee, Sir Cake Dwarf.
Esquire.
At our reincarnator tier, we've got Moon. And last but not least, at our commoner tier, we've got Rena and Kill Hour. Thank you so much to all our patrons, even the free ones, who I guess are just signed up to get alerts when the episodes come out.
I like to be included.
I guess that's a thing you can do. And of course, don't forget to check out the other series on our feed. Of course, we've got Shonen Jumping the Gun, where Mox and I take a look at the first chapter of manga and make wild predictions about their quality. We are deeply in the middle of the Beast arc right now. And stay tuned for the next arc, the sci-fi arc.
Oh my God.
Spoilers. We were actually sitting there for quite a while going, what are we going to cover for this sci-fi arc? But we got some recommendations. So you can look forward to that. And of course, we now have Anime Podcaster Speed Date, which is our strictly guest episodes. We're having a lot of fun with those. Currently debating who we're going to try and get on the show next. If you've got recommendations for people that you think we could actually get on the show, we do have two lists. We have two lists of people. We have the normal list of these are people we can probably get on without much trouble, and then we have our dream list that we're like, these people probably won't give us the time of day, but it would be cool. But let us know who you think we should have on. And as always, if you can't get enough of Ben talking about things, check out his other podcast, Words About Books, where you can listen to episodes such as Beware of Chicken, which is a Chinese cultivation parody by a Canadian.
It's pretty good. I won't lie. It's pretty good. I was nervous, but it was pretty good. We're also doing The Hunger Games Catching Fire, which is a book that mostly confused me. I don't understand what the government's trying to do.
None of these people are on fire. What is this?
What? I'm trying to remember if anybody was actually set on fire. I don't think so. No, a couple of people burned. Yeah, there was a fire.
Okay.
So the title holds up, but I don't know. It just seems like the Hunger Games are just the kind of thing that, like, it was bound to start a revolution.
Did anyone, while they were being immolated, go, in these Hunger Games. I'm catching fire.
I don't know. Gale might have. I don't get Gale either. Not much of a second male lead, to borrow the parlance of our genre. It's obviously PETA. It's always been PETA. It's always going to be PETA.
Well, once again, thanks for listening. We hope you had a good time. Now, I'm going to go. I have this. Wait a minute. No, we did this before. Wait, what is in my... You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used on the podcast.
I'll tell you what, I'm sympathizing with everybody in the Discord who forgot everything. It's been 2 weeks. It hasn't even been 2 weeks since I read this, because I read the new chapter. And I'm already starting to lose some of it. I think I remember the big parts. I'm happy that the names have stuck with me, though. I think I can remember most of the names.
This is so ridiculous.
What?
We're gonna be at over 5 hours for this.
Yeah, we were right to do a 2-parter.
Yeah, I was like, oh, the second episode, it'll be like an hour and a half. It won't be. How naive.
We have wandered a bit.
We did take 10 minutes to discuss the perfect casting for this series as a TV show.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. No, we did this before. Wait, what is in my...
It was drugs.
The manhwa was poison the whole time.
It was the fucking honey tea.